What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Different Lands podcast. My name is Juan Felipe Sierra. I've been in the entertainment industry for the past 14 years, and this is...
And I'm Daniel, your usual nerd. I like games, movies, music, anime, everything, you name it.
All right, so as you can probably tell, we're going to be doing an X-Men episode.
We're going to talk about a little bit about the X-Men in general, history. We're going to talk a little bit about their powers, what powers you think you would like to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to have a little fun game at the end where we talk a little bit about powers and then weaknesses. And, you know, you give me some powers, I'll give you weaknesses for those powers, and we do the same thing. If you can't tell, he is...
Wolverine, bub.
Yeah. And I'm supposed to be Cyclops, but I think the glasses look more like Daredevil. So you could either argue that I am...
Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah, you could argue that I'm either Daredevil or Cyclops. I'm still within the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, with me, there's no guessing.
No.
Hopefully this doesn't hurt throughout the whole... the whole thing. All right.
You know, that's crazy. It's a fun fact on how they come out, how they tear to everything.
Yeah, it has to go through the bones.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's wild. Go ahead.
That's why he needs his healing factor, because every time they come out, they basically destroy his bones on the way out and destroy his skin and everything. So when they go in, it's all over again.
Painful.
But before we do all of this, we're gonna give you a little bit of a lore of how the X-Men came about. So the X-Men were created in 1981 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yes.
And basically they were a response to what they saw during the 1960s with the civil rights movement. And there's a theory, it's never been confirmed, but there's a theory that Professor X and Magneto are basically allegories to Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King, because they were trying to integrate their community into a society that never wanted them in their community. That's why they had segregated bathrooms, they had segregated schools, they had segregated housing, they had segregated everything. That's why a lot of it is centered on mutants and people that have physical disfigurements.
Correct.
That make them an outcast in society, because that's how black people were looked at before 1960, not only during the 1960s, but way before the 1960s.
Yep.
And that's why they're trying to fight the good fight. While it's the X-Men, they're trying to integrate them through peace, and the Brotherhood of Mutants are trying to just say, we're the next step in the evolution. Screw everybody else. We're gonna kill you all with these. Well, no, not with these.
Yeah, and it's also part of the history itself that you already had the Fantastic Four, which was a group, right? It was a team.
It was the first family.
Then you had the Avengers. So then they introduced the X-Men as the new group of superheroes that are fighting together, right? And the original cast of the X-Men is way more different than the one that it is right now, right? You had Angel, right? You had the Beast. Then you had Cyclops. Then you had also
Jean Grey.
Right? And
Professor X, and that was it.
Yeah, and then they didn't allow at that time to use the word mutants, so that's why they use X-Men, which come from a derivative of the Professor Charles Xavier, so the X-Men, right? Because that's his team. And I really do love the fact that it's such an interesting way of putting out the story mode, the story out of this group of outcast, right? The X-Men, right? And one is trying to, like you said earlier, one is trying to kind of protect them and teach them how to kind of coexist with the rest of the world, who sees them as just mutants. Away from
disgusting creatures. Yeah.
And then that's when Magneto comes in and is like, we shouldn't be treated like that.
Correct.
We are not meant to be treated different, because we are still human beings. So who says that we need to live oppressed, and who says that we need to live away from everybody? And I think that's a phenomenal. And personally, right? Sorry, from my favorite teams out there, the X-Men is my favorite.
1,000%. 1,000%.
The Avengers are cool and everything, but they don't come anything close for me to the X-Men.
Yeah.
Right.
Because cool. That's the thing with a lot of the groups and everything, is that's why I love the X-Men and I love Spider-Man, because in both stories they're the rejects. Nobody likes them. They are prosecuted. They are attacked. They are the enemy of the people. And it's like, no, like, we are defending you. We are on your side. It's just that your prejudices or the media or people that are trying to like fearmonger are the ones putting you against us. We are not against you. So, and I love that in a lot of the ways, Magneto is not always the villain.
Correct.
And is usually actually right. Like, we've seen
absolutely.
a lot of comic book media or whether it's TV shows or the comic books or whatever, where they explain so well why Magneto is the way that he is and how he is right. Because as much as we like to say, like, oh, it has to be like a peaceful unity and whatever, not everybody's willing to do that, just like many people weren't able to do that in the 1960s when everything that is going on. And even to this day, there's a lot of things like with immigration or with like other people, with other religions, with secular groups or whatever, that it's not being integrated by the greater mass or the greater force of a particular country or land or whatever.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things also that I really, really enjoyed is how deep they explore some of the characters within the X-Men in general, like the mutants. It's like, it's not just, it doesn't stop at the fact that there is tons and tons of mutants. It's the fact that we get a nice exploration of all of them, and there is almost comic books for almost every X-Men out there. Yeah. Like almost every single X-Men has an origin book where you like comic book where you can read a run of like how the origins came out, right? Like X-Men is Wolverine is a very famous one, so he has tons of comics, right? And there's so many comics all the way from being before he joined the X-Men all the way after he was in the X-Men, like when he
Old Man Logan.
Yeah. There's so many stories and so much dedication to exploring these characters. But, they don't always do them justice in other medias, and I think they should. So, what do you think are some of the cool comics that you've seen out there? I personally haven't read a lot of comics from the X-Men, though they're my favorite of them all. Just here and there, I've seen a few things, but like not to the point where I've like read tons of them. So, what do you think? What do you think are like some of the best comics out there?
The X-Men comics, especially the run that Chris Claremont had, where he basically wrote the X-Men as though it was like a soap opera. So there were a lot of things that it was like very dramatic and very involved in very like heavy topics. So my favorite one out of all of them is from the 1980s, called God Loves, Man Kills.
Yeah.
That is my favorite. Why? Because you see people's hypocrisy through the eyes of religion and fanatism, and how, a character like what's the guy? Nightcrawler. Thank you. Nightcrawler, who kind of looks like a devil, but is actually the most religious out of all of them, because he grew up in a monastery. He grew up with like a bunch of monks and whatever. You also see how people's perception of like it's godly can take them to developing robots that kill thousands of people because in the name of God. And that has a lot of parallels, even at that, especially at that time where it was like during the Vietnam War and during like the war in Korea and all of that. You see all those parallels of, it's because it's the Christian thing to do, and it just becomes like this enormously horrendous genocide.
Correct. They do, exactly. They do have a lot of similarities to our real world, where we see a lot of actions being done against mutants of things that are very similar to things that have happened in the real world, right? Like like you said, like kind of like a Holocaust sort of thing, kind of like the segregation of the mutants and stuff like that. So you see a lot of that segregation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said that word and it just came out. I'm like, but I do definitely like to see that. What other comic do you think is that?
We have, Old Man Logan.
Actually, sorry. Yeah. Didn't one of the movies that came out, weren't they kind of touching a little bit on that specific comic? I forget the name, but wasn't there one like that?
They had a little bit on X-Men not X-Men Origins, X-Men the First Class.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit of First Class. But the only thing that has been really kind of close to it is in the original X-Men series, where they had a few episodes dedicated to that, where William Stryker, who in the movies is depicted as a general, but in the comics he is a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
He develops like part of all of the Sentinel programs and all of that, so that's why he's actually in the more like fanatical religious instead of like the military industrial complex kind of thing. But another one that I absolutely love, and of course Wolverine, is Old Man Logan. The whole thing, if you've never read or don't know about Old Man Logan, it basically takes place in the dystopian future after Logan, being controlled by Mysterio, ends up killing all of the X-Men. He thinks that everybody's a villain, and he just like goes to town, does what he does best, and unfortunately he's killing all of the X-Men, and then he becomes a pacifist. He doesn't pop out his claws anymore, and during that whole run is basically a rediscovery of himself and who he is, not only as a person but also against injustices, with an old blind Hawkeye, which is fucking awesome.
That is cool. I do know one of my favorites, right? And you can, by the glasses, you can tell is Cyclops. Yeah. I love Cyclops because he's always kind of been the leader of the X-Men, like the actual ones fighting. And I've always loved the fact that he's never been portrayed very well in movies and anything like that. But he's quite a powerful X-Men, to be honest. Yeah. And again, he's a leader, and he has had a few runs even in comics where he has been bad. Even though I think there was one called the X Nation that I was just looking at beforehand. Again, I haven't read a lot of them. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance. I think I read a few for like the actual origins, especially Gambit, because it's also one of my favorites.
Oh, that is an awesome.
Yeah, the Gambit is awesome. But there's a few times where Cyclops has gone bad. Yeah. Right? And then there has a whole run of comics of him being kind of like a villain. And actually some of the original X-Men also has had a few runs, like Jean Grey, right? With the Phoenix. Yeah. She becomes, evil because of the Phoenix Force, and even Omega at some point has a little bit of that too. So there's quite a few runs where like the X-Men have been bad. Even Beast has been portrayed as Dark Beast. Psylocke has been helping also
the Brotherhood. Yeah.
Right. So and then there's a lot of good comics for that. Like I said, we'll leave some of the recommendations down below.
Right below. Sorry, I just bought this specifically for this video, so I'm gonna milk the shit out of this.
The Gambit one is actually really good.
Yes,
that one is really good. It tells the story of Gambit itself. And how he started, right, his powers, and he's actually he was a really powerful mutant, right, because he can make pretty much a lot of things. Anything will explode. And he asked Mr. Sinister to tone him down a little bit, which is very interesting that he went to a villain to ask him
to actually help him.
Yeah. That's very cool.
And another one of the comic runs that I think is one of the most emblematic of them all is, of course, Days of Future Past, where in the future mutants are actually hunted and killed, and you have the famous cover of all of the faces of the mutants. Yeah. And some saying deceased, or some saying like missing or whatever. And it's a great comic run. If you have seen it, if you've seen the movie Days of Future Past, which is it's very loosely based, where but they do have a lot of things that are very, very similar.
Isn't that actually one of the better movies that they've done?
Yes, it's one of the most comic accurate movies, but it's still very loosely following.
I just don't understand, how hard is it to give us comic accurate suits? Like, why?
It's very hard.
But like, okay, I'm not necessarily give me spandex, right? I'm not saying give me spandex and like really tight to the skin, but just give me the original colors. Like, for example, in the X-Men, the original X-Men for like the 2000 and everything like
everything was black.
Everything was black. And I'm
like... Well, you know why? There is some context behind it. It's because the producers were trying to have a look similar to The Matrix that had just come out the year before. So they were trying to have that like edgy, everything is
I understand, but there are suits within the X-Men that are blacked out, like the
Wolverine X-Force.
The X-Force,
which is my favorite suit, actually.
They're kind of like blacked out, cause like kind of like Spec Ops, and they like wearing black, and those suits are awesome. X-23 is in there, Wolverine is in there, and they're wearing black, and it looks awesome. Yeah. But why is it so difficult, right? Especially when you're going to introduce the X-Men, that it's so beloved, right? Because the colors have been so beloved. You know, Cyclops wears his blue with yellow, right? Storm with the white, sometimes a little bit black. Yeah, but you've seen them with the original colors, and why was it so difficult just to give us even the colors at least? Like, make the suits dark blue, but like make them similar so that way people are like, okay, they look cool. And actually, I think they give us a glimpse. Wasn't it at the end of there was a X-Men movie where at the end they show all of them, and they are kind of wearing a kind of accurate.
Yes, it is
when they
Age
fight
of Apocalypse.
Yeah. And they kind of give us the suit at the end, but they just tease it and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
same thing with Wolverine's mask at the end of the Wolverine, where you see the mask and the claws
when he opens
the suitcase. Where I was like, bro, that's just being a bitch.
Why couldn't you have done that before? Like, I feel like a Wolverine movie on his peak with that suit.
Oh, would have been amazing. Even though I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful of Wolverine and the X-Men. No, that's a TV show of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Of Deadpool and Wolverine, that they actually gave him the comic accurate suit, and they even showed the brown and blue and yellow suit.
They showed a few.
They showed a few.
And they look incredible.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Because now people are embracing it. Like, you have to imagine in the early 2000s the fear of, are people actually gonna like it? Are people actually gonna respond well to a bright yellow suit?
I get it.
Like I said, there is context.
But they could have given us, like I said, colors, similar colors. Like I said, you don't need to give us spandex. You don't need to give us like the brightest blue, but just make it more similar to the point where we're like, okay, that's the X-Men that we grew up watching or that we've seen. Like, for example, X-Men 97 was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And everybody from their childhood is growing up seeing this. And then you put out the X-Men and they don't look like that.
Yeah.
And even though I love some of the actors that played because they look great, right? Cyclops, I thought he was a really good cast. He looked good.
Yeah, James Marsden.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman, phenomenal. So we genuinely had really good. Halle Berry is a Storm. Wasn't she?
Halle Berry, yeah.
Halle Berry.
Yeah. Even like
even Jean Grey was
Femke
cool.
Jensen as Jean Grey was awesome. But these standouts for me are just Patrick Stewart as Professor X and 100%. Sir Ian McGregor as Sir Ian. Oh my God.
Ian McGregor, Conor McGregor.
Yeah, no. Sir Ian. Oh my God.
I was gonna say
I can't believe I forgot his name.
Ian Kellen.
No, it is Ian Kellen.
Is it?
Yeah.
So
Ian Kellen as
Magneto.
As Magneto.
Magnus,
which he has like 10 different fucking names.
His story is phenomenal. Okay, the fact that he was he was in the Holocaust as well, and like the story
Ian McKellen.
He
was a mixture of both.
Yeah. Where they showed that part of it is also really good, right? Like he's been very oppressed a lot of his life.
Yeah,
and the fact that he comes out and he's like, I'm gonna
Never
whoop
again.
everybody. But you know what? I really want to see a good Magneto on screen. Like I'm craving to see like a really good Magneto.
I mean, I thought Michael Fassbender did amazing.
Yeah, but like more like, I guess maybe that's where you come in, like they're being edgy, but I want to see him like comic accurate. You know, I want to see a Magneto, white hair, long hair, coming in and being this, with the nice suit that he comes in. Because shorts, there's been like Ian McKellen has been great, as well as Michael Fassbender. I thought he was also cool.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, they numbed down a little bit of the character. And like the colors and everything, like give him more.
But here's the thing why I specifically love Sir Ian McKellen as Magneto, not only because of the Shakespearean, aspect of it, or of how he delivers his line with such precision and such like surgical accuracy, but also it's the same thing that they try to do with Odin in God of War, where it's like he just kind of looks thin and he just kind of looks frail, but he's like so powerful. Like, I love the scene where in the third movie where there's a truck coming and he just goes and just the truck just goes over him. That to me is more powerful. There's a higher level of like more authority on somebody that doesn't look like he's a big deal and being a huge fucking deal.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
So, and I 100% agree with you on that end. I think he did phenomenal. Like I said, the portrayals of like the actors that played them have been good, but I just I'm craving to see him at his peak, like also being, a little bit younger, still older, right? Because they're obviously a little bit older, but just kind of giving him more screen time where you genuinely also see him being a menace to the X-Men a lot more consistently than here and there showcasing his powers and being like, okay, he's a bad guy and he does things. But like, for example, Michael Fassbender, most of his character was working with Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
And some of them. So I kind of want to see him more like the villain, where like they're like, oh shit, like he is like for X-Men 97, the one that they just redid.
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of trying to be good. But at the end, he's just
where
goes
he
crazy.
Flips upside down. Yes,
he goes
dude.
crazy. The power outage when he goes after the Wolverine, when he's coming after him, he's like, you know, dude.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see. That's what I'm referring to. I'm not saying that they've been bad. It's just they haven't given us more of that. Like I just want to see him like full spectrum going all out. Right. Same thing with Charles Xavier. He has great powers, though. I think he has been one of the ones that I was like, okay, cool. They did a good job with him, for all the way from like the way he looks, the little wheelchair that he had. He looked really good.
Yeah.
But I just want to see more. I just want to see them expand a little bit more on those characters and give them a little bit more. Like I said, X-Men in X-Men 97, when they explore a little bit more of the story with Lilandro when he's in space, right? I think that's really cool. And the X-Men looking for him and the whole ordeal that's going to come now, because Lilandro is going to be like,
I'm out.
yeah. You're gonna take him?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm taking it back, motherfucker. Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And I agree that there's a lot of characters that I wish that they would have portrayed him a little bit better. But for example, I think Alan Cumming did a fucking phenomenal job as Nightcrawler. Alan Cumming was tremendous. I didn't like the younger one from Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
No hate to the actor, but it's just after coming from such an iconic version as the one that Alan Cumming did, there's just there's no winning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think Nightcrawler has also been one of my favorite characters. His powers are really cool. But yeah, I just feel like, again, it's talking a little bit in general of like, we haven't gotten the full depictions that they could give us, right? There are so many comics on the X-Men that could be adapted into a movie that I think would showcase beautifully how the characters are, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the animated series that they just redid, X-Men 97, and is amazing.
Yeah.
Except here and there are a few characters that I feel like they didn't do justice, like Mr. Sinister. You know, there's a few characters.
I mean, it's the reason why we feel that it doesn't do him justice is that because in the original animated series, they did him really, really well. Right. All of the meat and potatoes of that character is on the original. So that's why I do give him a pass, because all the things that they're trying to build, it's already been built. So that's why a continuance of a story can be a little tricky. But for example, like one of my favorite series of all time is X-Men Evolution. X-Men Evolution was a great, great show. And I think that they did the characters justice. Yes, they were younger. Yes, they were like on their teenage years or whatever. But I think that they were amazing on what they did. X-Men and Wolverine and the X-Men, I thought it was a really good show. It wasn't one of my favorites, but it's a good show. What other X-Men properties have been out there?
There have been a few movies. I think there was even like an anime.
There was the anime where
there
was a Wolverine specific anime.
Very nice.
It was very nicely
animated. Yeah, it was really good.
But if you look at the way that they did the Wolverine specific anime versus the X-Men anime, in the Wolverine anime he looks beautiful, he looks super aesthetic, he's really handsome, he's really pretty. And in the other one, he just looks like a fucking dirty smelling dog. He's
because that's the whole point.
Yeah, it is.
He is supposed to be not pretty.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, that's the other thing. I get that Hollywood needs to sell with the vision, or like the way that it looks. Like, you sell through the eyes.
Yeah, of course.
I 100% understand that. But just give me a comic accurate Wolverine.
Pick me, motherfuckers, pick me.
You know, make him short, make him dirty.
Yeah.
And make him hairy.
Smelly, make him ugly, make him like a piece of shit.
But yeah, I don't know.
No, okay. I'm going to preface this. If by any stretch of the imagination I ever get to do a Wolverine on screen, which you never know, I would legitimately grow my own hair out, like make sure that it looks comic accurate. Right. Like I wouldn't like to wear a wig. And I would be like the big stocky version of him, and kind of have that attitude of like, get out of my face, like, what are you doing to me? Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I would have that like rage against the authority kind of attitude with Wolverine. That I do believe that even though Hugh Jackman did great, at the end they were really banking on Hugh Jackman as being the main character. So whereas Wolverine, he doesn't like to be the main character.
Absolutely.
That's why he always fights with Cyclops, because
he always avoids it.
He always avoids it, and Cyclops is like, no, be part of the team. He's like, no, get out of my face, like, the fuck?
Exactly. He's never been wanting to be part of it.
Yeah.
You know, though there are some comics that would depict him as being wanting to be part of the team and helping the team, because he's not. I guess he's not a team player, but also he's been solo for a long time in his life. He's dealt with a lot of stuff on his own. So, you know, coming into a team, he's like, I don't feel like I fit in. And I think that's a lot of his premise is he never thinks that he fits in. Yet he has always fit in.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
That's why one of the best lines that I've ever heard about Wolverine was in Deadpool and Wolverine, when Laura tells him, like, you've never been the right guy, but you always showed up when you were needed. And I was like, I feel like that. Yeah. Let me ask you, what, besides all of the things that we've mentioned, what would you adapt into a show or a movie? Like, what storyline would you adapt?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the one for the Men Kill, I feel like that could be a really good story to be adapted if they try to do it to the T.
Oh yeah.
Like not deviate a little bit. No, try to make it as close as possible, because the story is very deep, very gritty, and it would keep everybody invested.
Yeah.
And if you make it right, with the right actors, with the right casting, with the right colors, with the right palettes, right, I think it could be awesome.
The reason why I would love to do that too. I would love to do that too. The only reason why I would see people being like against it is because it goes against Christians. And
that's fine.
And to us, that's fine. But to a producer saying most of the population is Christian, I don't know how they're going to react to it.
But, you know, maybe, and I'm not saying they need to change the story. I think it could be part of what makes the story great is, sorry, I'm like rolling my P's a lot.
Your plosives, yeah.
Yeah. What part of what makes the story so good is that, and I think that's the essence of it. And I feel like, sure, we're in an era where everything is very touchy, right? Like, everything could be very touching. Everybody would be like, I don't know. But at the same time, we're in an era also that everybody wants to see it.
Yeah,
right?
like realness.
We talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk about people wanting to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And also in an era where people are craving to see more of that real essence.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the reasons why that one could work, even though it goes against Christian. Obviously, the producer could be like, But if you get a producer that is like wanting to go full out, kind of like Deadpool. They didn't want to do Deadpool for so long because Deadpool has always been a character that has always been
marred with controversy.
Yeah. But they finally did him, and look how much people have loved Deadpool. Yeah, you can argue that Deadpool almost kind of like resetted everything.
Yeah, and the mutant saga,
actual color, like the comic accurate colors and everything. He kind of restarted all of that. Yeah, and it was awesome.
I would do this. I would love to see, maybe not live action. I would try to do it more like animated. I would do 2 storylines at the same time that could really meld into one. God Loves Man Kills. My fucking English is horrendous today, even though I was just doing like my accent work. And House of M and E for Extinction. All of those 3 could work phenomenally. Yeah. Why? Because you can start with God Loves Man Kills and how they're being prosecuted and how they're being tried to be like taken out and killed and have that part of the extinction. Then you can start seeing how Scarlet Witch and Magneto start having their falling out, like in House of M. And then she mutters her famous line of "No more mutants," and then you get to that era of where it's only 200 mutants left. And now we come into E for Extinction, and then you see how those 200 mutants are being ran out to the point where they have to go to Krakoa now to be able to live peacefully.
Right.
And then that could also lead into that other side of God Loves Man Kills, where now you're seeing the Sentinels being brought up. You can do it in the 80s. You can do it in the early stages of the X-Men or whatever. And you can see where the Sentinels are being really built, and you can bring up how, you can have that same episode 5, that destruction in episode 5 that they had in X-Men 97, where you could have that, like, how are people so cruel? How are people this, like, horrendous to us? And then we can lead into when Cyclops, when the Phoenix Force is divided into 5 with Cyclops being the leader of the whole thing, and Cyclops kills Professor X. And that's the end of the season. And wow, what a season it would be.
Yeah. I mean, it's because, making it non-animated would be very difficult.
Yeah, very, very difficult.
I think it could be very powerful. Difficult to make in a live action, but not impossible.
Yeah.
If done right.
Like, give me a 13-episode miniseries on the X-Men done really good.
Yeah.
About God Loves Man Kills. That I would pay top dollar about that.
You know what? Sorry, I when you were saying that, I actually thought about something before Deadpool. Well, never mind, because we had wasn't Logan after Deadpool, the first one.
Old Man Logan?
Yeah, the movie Logan. Wasn't that one after Deadpool?
Yeah. Okay.
Because I know
even after the second one.
Yeah, because I know that one was rated M and it was bloody and it was great. It was great
rated
movie.
R.
Yeah, rated R. Sorry. Well, M for mature, I guess, because I'm thinking
about
games.
That's video games.
Yeah, I'm thinking about games. So I think that one came out after, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, I think it is possible to make it live action, and Marvel has shown that by doing it with the Avengers and everything when they were doing them right.
Yeah.
And they didn't start introducing other characters that we didn't want to see. Nonetheless, I wish I could just leave a middle finger in there. That'd be cool. Yeah, no, but I definitely do think that it is possible. And with those adaptations and the way that they're showing that, I think they need to explore more like Krakoa and stuff like that. Definitely will be awesome to see them done well. Like I said, it's just, I feel like, okay, given what you're saying is cool, but they really need to focus a lot in one story. Because I feel like they have tried to bend it to add so many different characters. And they try to make, in the movies, they try to make all the characters kind of have a little backstory, but it doesn't always work. So it's just focus on the story and like give us the character, and the people that really know the characters are gonna be like, oh shit, I know who that character is.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, okay, this is Emma Frost and this is what she does, and then this is why she's bad, and then you go from it, right? Or I'm the villain, I'm gonna do this. And it's like, no.
I completely agree with you. Why? Because it gives them that sense of aura and that sense of tension of, like, for example, you never, in Inglourious Bastards, you never knew the backstory of Hans Landa.
Yeah.
But you immediately sensed him as a threat because of how people reacted to him.
Exactly.
So you could have, William Stryker just be on TV and everybody go like, oh my God, it's William Stryker. What is he going to do? Whatever. And then get the ball rolling with that.
Absolutely.
Because people are going to try to be invested more on who is William Stryker? Why is he doing this? Why is he like that? Go read the comics. Go look it up. So it goes back to the origins of it. So it could be a win-win in that sense. If it's done really right and people really engage with it, it could be a ton of sales for comics.
Is that how they did Thanos?
Yeah.
From the very get-go, they always would show a snippet all the way, like in the post-credit scenes, they would show him. And you see him and you're like, who is this guy? What is he going to do? When is he going to show up? And it's like movies after movie of the Avengers, he kept on being teased. And then he comes in and he wrecks everybody. It's just like, holy shit, that is Thanos.
And like, in all of his appearances, I think there's only been like one scene that was like 3 minutes of who he was. And that's it. And then nobody cared because he just started beating the piss out of the Avengers and he won.
Exactly.
So
that, I feel like that's the proper formula to make a character stand out the whole time. Like, okay, for example, when they introduced the Joker in the Batman movie, right?
In the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
It was awesome, right? You don't need to know who he is, right? He just shows up, he kills everybody, takes the money, and you're like, holy fuck. But obviously, he's such a big character that you immediately know he's the Joker.
Correct.
But for those who don't know that, you immediately know he's a bad guy. He's bad news. The moment he does everything, you're like, oh, he double-crossed them. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And you're immediately invested in wanting to know who he is because they don't even tell you. It's like, okay, he did that, and you're just kind of like, oh, this random guy hired us, and then he just shows up at the end.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, snap. He was there the whole time. And I feel like that's a really good introduction to a bad character as well because it's like, you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
So a Magneto introduced like, you don't have to like introduce him. He just shows up and he's like, kind of like you're saying, just flicking cars and everything like that and really going all out. You'll be like, oh my God, this man is, because Magneto is really powerful.
Yeah.
Like extremely powerful.
Because even William Stryker, that people like that only watch the movies think he's a general, you could have William Stryker as this powerful voice of the Christian community and him being like, these people are demons. We need to take them off the street. We need to hunt them down. We need to make sure that the powers are in check. And then you have the counter argument of, oh my God, like people starting to believe it, and you see that fanatical base start growing and growing and growing, and you see people being incarcerated for no reason. You see people like being hunted on the streets. You see people being lynched. So I think that it would be such an amazing thing to just get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the backstories. Just get the ball rolling, and you see that it's gonna build up and build up and build up and build up, and then you can have a little bit of a scene where it's like, but who is this? Why is he hunting us? Who is this guy? And then you could go into, well, he's William Stryker.
Exactly. A little, very tiny explanation who he is and why he does that. And that's it.
And
Move on.
Yeah.
Move on.
You don't need like a 10-minute.
Yeah, I get it. I'm ready to go. Instead of from like giving it from the get-go who he is and what he's going to do. No.
Yeah.
Let the story go, and then let him be always the constant threat. And then you show him up.
Correct. So let me ask you this. What other properties outside of comics do you think the X-Men have inspired? Because this tale is a tale of like survival, of engagement, of, we're going to be extinct. What other properties do you think it has inspired?
A lot of stuff.
Name me one.
A lot of stuff. I think in the game industry and everything, they have inspired a lot.
Like Infamous, like something like that?
Yeah, because the whole series of Infamous kind of being like the powers and being hunted for your powers, right? And kind of, exploring that side. I remember Prototype.
Yes.
I feel like to a degree, right? Because he has been genetically modified to be this bad guy, and the whole movie he's just like destroying everybody. That was actually a really good game, by the way.
Yeah.
Prototype was awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like that
it was violent.
Yeah, I feel like that could be a little bit inspired on some X-Men, because it's kind of like the combination of like being this mutant kind of thing and just letting him progressively get stronger, which I think Prototype 2, you have to stop that guy.
Yeah.
So you're now faced with the consequence of like, he was an experiment at the beginning, and he let loose, and then now you have to hunt him down, which is kind of like, okay, he was created, and then now you have to hunt him down. So it kind of gives that moral question that I think a lot of the X-Men have. What else? What do you think? What do you have?
To me, the biggest one is My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah,
My Hero Academia has been heavily inspired on the X-Men, heavily, and even Kohei Horikoshi. Even Horikoshi has said, like, yes, the X-Men have been a huge inspiration for me. You even see it in like the Heteromorph arc where Spinner is trying to fight for his people that they just look weird.
Yeah.
And they were born that way, and people judge them just because he was born looking like a lizard, and people that look like a spider, and people that have like a giant thing on their head. And you have the counter argument of that with Shoji that has 6 arms and that also looks deformed, and people hated him for that. And his mouth is full of scars. So you see how that is heavily inspired by the X-Men, and I love it.
All the way from the government, the academy, like the Hero Academy and everything like that. Yeah, absolutely. And then you have the really bad guys, which have real motives. Yeah, where exactly is the same thing that you're like, okay, it's.
And a lot of it is like, I completely understand where they come from. I don't agree with their methods, but I completely understand where they come from.
I do have something I wanted to talk about, which is Omega level.
This thing hurts.
The Omega level mutants, right? Because the X-Men not only introduce really powerful characters, they have also introduced throughout the years what they call Omega level, right? You have Alpha level, Omega level, right? And Omega level are supposed to be like the top dogs of the
the mutant community,
right? They're supposed to be the most powerful, which Storm is actually one of them, and she's all along part of the team, right? Because the original team eventually changed, and then they introduced. That's when Storm came in. Iceman was the other character.
Iceman, yes,
right. That was with the original X-Men, and then he moved out of that. Sunfire was actually part of the X-Men, but he literally quit right away. And then you're left with the Iceman. You're left with eventually with they actually had like two teams, right? Which you also had in another team, Colossus and everything like that. Yeah. But the original team was Jean Grey, Gambit, Storm, Cyclops.
Beast.
That's not Hank. His name is Hank,
Hank
right?
McCoy.
Hank McCoy. Yeah. I was thinking about Hank Pym, but no,
Hank McCoy.
Hank McCoy. Right? And they were the X-Men.
Yeah.
Right, and then you also had the other team with they had Colossus, and then they had Nightcrawler, they had Jubilee, Storm was a part of the original.
Oh, the original. Sorry,
yeah. They had a few other ones, and that's when they introduced around like the 90s. That's when they introduced the classic, the original, because the first one was like black. That was really cool. The black and yellow of the original.
It was
like a dark bluish.
Yeah, it was dark blue and yellow. Yeah, because they look like gym equipment.
Yeah. They were cool. Yeah. I actually liked them. And then they introduced the other one. More
I like how Beast originally was just like a regular looking guy with like big feet and big hands.
Yeah.
And then
he became a beast.
And then he became Beast. And I love how they explained that it's been kind of like an unfortunate genetic thing of like, oh, I was trying to actually get rid of my powers. And now you have, he looks like a giant teddy bear, or bear. And that's also a moral quandary that I love in the X-Men universe of, should they take the drug?
Yeah.
Can they be happy without having their powers? Can they live a normal life without having their superpowers?
Yeah.
And I love how that question comes around every like 10 years or so. Yeah. And you have that moral quandary of, maybe I should just take my powers away. Maybe I should just like get rid of this and try to live a normal life. And then you see the other side of, but you're never going to be normal.
Yeah. I think a little bit of that too is inspired Invincible.
Yeah.
A little bit of it.
Very much so.
And there is a scene when, and this is on the original comic, and also they introduced it not long ago in the season. And I'm sorry, this is going to be a spoiler. So spoiler alert. When Rex dies, and the whole premise leading to his death, that he's telling like, who am I outside of this?
Yeah.
My whole life, I have been this. I have been
superhero.
I have these powers. I have this. This is kind of who I am. So who would I be without the powers? Who would I be outside of being this? And that's great, because that's part of that whole situation where like, who would they be really if they didn't have those powers?
Correct.
Which
because
is awesome.
At the end of the day, even if they don't have the powers anymore, they would still try to like unconsciously try to use them. Whether to harm somebody or just normal convenience that they used to have. So,
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, I mean, like I said, and going back a little bit to those Omega levels, I know that Iceman is part of them.
Yes.
And the X-Men and the Deadpool and Wolverine, Cassandra Nova, which is the sister of Charles Xavier. Yeah. She's also an Omega level threat X-Men.
Mutant.
Yeah, mutant.
With Jean Grey, of course.
Jean Grey, but they also, if you think about the powers they have, you're like, no wonder.
No wonder.
Because they're like really powerful, right? Like the whole weather situation, Iceman controlling, also the temperatures.
Yeah, because he can freeze over the world.
Yeah, Jean Grey, telekinesis and all that stuff that she has.
Telekinesis.
Cassandra Nova as well.
Yeah.
They kind of like, there's a lot of Omega level mutants that control, like, that can bend reality and stuff like that.
For sure.
So it's crazy,
because even like what's his name, not Cable, but the other kid that Hope Summers
that isn't that Strife, the one that becomes Strife.
No,
I know there is a clone of
Nathan Summers that becomes Strife.
Yes, Strife.
No, but I'm talking.
He has telekinesis. He's a really powerful. I think he's also Omega level.
Right, but I don't know if he's Omega level. But I was saying that Hope Summers.
A lot of Summers are.
Yeah, Hope Summers.
A lot of Summers are.
Yeah, a lot of the Summers are. So Hope Summers ends up having the entire Phoenix Force in her and being able to control it.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, she's an Omega level mutant.
Yeah, there is quite a few. I think there is one who is a brother of Cyclops, and I think he's Vulcan. I think his name is. He's also
Havoc.
Havoc too, but there is another one.
Oh, there is another one.
Because Jesus Christ. Cyclops has like, I think 2 or 3 brothers.
Okay.
And the other 2 brothers, not Havoc. I don't think Havoc is as an Omega, but there's one I think it's called
Havoc
Vulcan.
is not.
If anything, we'll put the screen here.
Yeah.
I'll name it there. But yeah. Anyways, and then just to close out, I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a fun thing here at the end about the powers. What power would you have? And I'll tell you a weakness of that power. So give me one power you would like to have.
I would love to have the power to kind of like, if I touch you, you can feel the pain of another person, or you can feel the feelings of another person.
Okay.
So like I would touch you, like let's say you're like, oh, but I fucking hate this bitch, whatever, and I would touch you and I would make you feel what she feels.
Okay.
Or if you're like planning to hurt somebody, I would touch you and make you feel exactly what you're doing or whatever. So kind of have that. It wouldn't be like empathy, because it kind of sounds like empathy, but it would be like, no, like if I really want to mess you up, like I'm gonna make you feel all the hurt that you've incurred on somebody else on you.
But what if your weakness was that you also feel it? You wouldn't want to use the powers.
Correct. Like I'm writing this manga about precisely powers that people can control.
Yeah.
And that people are not able to understand properly because they see it as a curse. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the powers that you see like on the manga are gonna be precisely things that are gonna harm you more than help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
For me would be super speed. There's something about speedsters that I just love.
I like teleportation more than speedsters.
I just like speed, man. Like the fact that everything could be done like in an instant, and like before you even like you're in the middle of a blink, and I'm like flying through here doing a bunch of shit and come back, and you're still finishing your blink or something like that. Or you're like gonna articulate a sentence, and I'm like, and I'm back. That's awesome, dude.
Do you know like there's this Capcom game called Beautiful Joe?
Mm-hmm. I remember that one.
So I think Beautiful Joe's powers are better than a speedsters, because speedsters are like, there's a lot of things that is like, it doesn't make sense. But I think Beautiful Joe's powers are awesome because you can either like you yourself get faster or slow things down, which it might sound like it's the same, but it's not, because they like time could run normally and you're just faster, or you can make everything slow down. So let's say
that one,
that to me is an awesome power.
Yeah, that was cool. Okay, so what would be a weakness for my power?
That you perceive everything as regular people.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm going really fast, but I perceive it as.
So you're just like, the fuck is going on?
Bro, I think you can't use it. You fucking throw up every time. You're like
it's like, I'm gonna go whaz, and you smack against the wall. It's like you really have to plan out everywhere you're going. You're like, okay, go.
It's like, I am fast, but only in open spaces. And they're like, so what are you useful for? Only if there's nothing in front of me, I can be fast.
Do you remember that thing of like, I am invisible if nobody is looking at me?
Yeah. That'd be hilarious. What other power would you put in?
I would love the power to make someone, like, to read somebody's thoughts, but to be the weakness of that is that I can only read like the worst, most heinous, most.
But I was gonna give you the weakness.
Oh, sorry.
You're giving me the power. I give you the weakness.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the weakness is that you can't think. Like you read their mind, but you can't. You block yourself, so you don't forget. You forget every time. You read somebody's mind.
Yeah. That's actually one of the weaknesses also that I had for that one too.
Like you read their mind, and then when you're out of it, you're like, huh?
What the fuck did I
don't like that person, but I can't tell why.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are the powers you have?
He's weird.
Something tells me.
I would like to have a power of naturally blending with everything. Like kind of being able to blend with my environment, kind of like hiding. Like
just being an extroverted person.
Kind of being able to blend in anywhere.
Nice.
Like if I'm in threat, I can just get against the wall and I'm like invisible.
You know what?
Not invisible, just blending in.
You know what I think the powers have to be? That you have to get butt naked to do that.
It's like, there's a threat coming, and you just see me in the back taking off my pants, and you're like, what are you doing? They're coming
I'm sorry, guys.
I'm like, hold on, give me a minute. Don't look away.
It's like, why is that watch walking over there? You're like, fuck.
And then you see me, and like, my butt is not touching the wall, so you see my pee-pee still not blending in. They're like, what the hell is that? They're like, what the fuck?
Can you imagine somebody being like, the fuck is this? And you're like, ow!
He's like, why does this wall look so weird? Yeah, dude, I think that'd be
Somebody tries to put a hanger on your dick. You're like, ah!
All right, so before I close out, I do have a surprise for you, man. If you made it to this part of the video, thank you so much. Thank you for all the support that you've given us. Let us know down in the comments some of your favorite comics, some of your favorite heroes. Again, one of my favorites are the X-Men in general, but I love Cyclops so much, and Gambit. And obviously, I don't think we need to ask him who his favorite is. Aside from Wolverine, do you have another one?
I love Magneto. I love
He's
Magneto.
amazing. He's cool.
But like an
Magneto.
Fire Magneto. That's for all of you watchers that are playing Marvel Rivals. But I think one of the like underrated characters that I love his powers is Avalanche.
Okay.
I love that guy's powers. Can you imagine you walking by and you're like, you motherfucker, and you just you create a fucking seismic event? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's some really cool characters. You know who was also really cool? The one that helps Storm during the X-Men 97 Forge.
Yeah, Forge is awesome.
Are really
cool. You
really
can like anything that comes into your mind, you can create. How fucking
that
cool
power
is that?
is.
Yeah,
you know, I would say I could even argue that could be an almost an Omega.
No, because it's very limited on your creativity.
It is, but if you're like really creative, like you have had a long life to like explore so many things, you could be really dangerous.
Yeah, you can be.
Obviously, there's more limitations compared to how easy.
Can you
like,
imagine
having would be like?
Can you imagine having that power and having like Alzheimer's?
That would
be fucking horrendous.
That'd be so funny. You're like, I was building something, but I forgot.
It would be
and
like
you have like half creations everywhere. Like
yeah,
you go into his house and it's like half of like a weapon. You're like, where's the other half? He's like, huh.
What half?
Huh.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I do have something very fun to give you at the end. Man, my eyes are. I think I'm gonna keep those glasses for the rest of my life.
My fingers hurt so bad from these claws.
All right, so again, if you made it to this part of the video, it's awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Again, we'll be showing videos every 2 weeks, so stay tuned for videos every 2 Mondays, right at 7 p.m. in all of our channels. Now, time to show you something.
Okay, I'm excited because a few episodes ago I had a surprise with him with all the pictures and everything. So
here you go, sir.
Oh, this is tight. Oh, this is tight. I love it, dude. Here for the camera. Hell yeah.
So let's show it off like that to the camera.
Oh, this is awesome, dude. I love this, man.
We have a little logo on the back.
And the logo, dude. This is tight, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Cool.
Oh my god.
It's awesome,
bro,
right?
This is awesome.
Thank
you so much.
Dude.
Yeah, dude.
And it's not printed, which is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Damn, dude. Oh, for sure I'm going to be taking this into like cons and stuff. Hell yeah. Dude, thank you so much. Absolutely, I love it. Brother. I love it. Thank you so much, bro.
So, thank you so much, guys, for all your support and for everything you guys seen. For those of you who watch our shorts only, thank you also. Yeah. We've reached 100,000 viewers across all the medias.
Yes!
Across all the media. So this is kind of a celebration of 100,000 views across all the medias. So thank you everybody who's watched us. If you don't watch our full episodes, that's fine. But thank you still for watching our shorts.
Goodbye.